Hey, how's it going everybody? It's your pal Megasnoop bringing you another Toontastic video today. And in today's video, we are doing the Toontown Rewritten Field Offices for Dummies. All the quick tips and tricks that you need to know to help you get through these field offices successfully. And any additional information you might need too. Let's just hop into it with some quick tips and information that you may need to know. So what is a field office? With one of Toontown Rewritten's latest updates, they introduced the field offices. They're giant complexes that take over the Toon HQs on each individual street that are kind of like dungeons that allow Toons to go through and collect different rewards. They're mostly needed for the Resistance Ranger tasks, so don't feel too bad about not wanting to go in one right away or not being prepared to anyway, since it is seen as endgame content. But one very specific distinction is the fact that anyone can go into a field office, but you do need to have 100 laugh, complete the task line, have all your suits, and a level 7 gag in order to do the tasks that are required in the field offices. Now for the field offices themselves, they are sorted into 3 different levels, 1, 2, and 3 stars. And the differences between them, although they all have 5 floors, the difficulty comes from a few things. Number 1, the max level cog that can be found in the traditional boss fights. For a 1 star it goes up to level 12, the 2 stars it goes up to level 13, and the 3 stars go up to level 14. The second difference is the amount of cogs that you face during the mini games and how tough they are. In the 1 star you may find some cogs that are running around that you can defeat in 1 hit. Whereas if you get to the 2 and 3 stars, some of these cogs during the ice skating game may take 2 to 3 hits to be destroyed, and there's going to be more of them. And then finally, the last one is the boss health. The boss at the top, the boiler, is going to have a higher maximum health depending on how many stars the field office is. Otherwise, the field office is broken into 5 floors, and let's go over those right now. The first floor is always going to be a cog fight. And you will only start with 3 gag tracks. So before you even start, some of your gag tracks are limited. That's just one of the features of the field office. However, to also not make it impossible, one of the 3 gag tracks you get will always either be throw or squirt. And then on top of that, you may get a combination of throw, lure, and tune-up, or squirt, sound, and drop. It really depends, it varies, but you will have at least one attacking gag that everyone can use. There's some combinations better than others. Some I've seen are like tune-up, trap, and squirt, and those are just awful because the only thing you can actually attack with is squirt. So if you get one of those, best of luck. The first cog fight will almost always have about 8 cogs in a 1 star. For a 2 star and a 3 star, it goes up to 12 and 13. In a 1 star, it's just about 8. It's not too difficult. Coordinate with your people and making sure you're maximizing your damage while minimizing getting hit. After the first floor, you'll head to a minigame. There are 2 different types of minigames here. It will always be random which one you get first and which one you get second. So let's just go over both of them right now. The first one is the Move and Shaker game. This one has 4 giant move and shakers that you need to destroy before moving on to the next floor. And a bunch of other smaller cogs as well that get in the way. You can destroy them for extra jokes, but you don't need to. So what you have to do is you have to go up to a water cooler, grab a balloon, and then throw it at one of these movement shakers. Each of the movement shakers does take 3 hits to be destroyed, whereas some of the other cogs running around may only take 1 or 2. Every cog you destroy, whether it's a movement shaker or not, will drop jokes, and jokes are key here. So for both mini games, all the cogs that you defeat drop jokes, and in order to unlock your gag tracks for future battles, you need to collect some of these jokes. Depending on the star of field office you're doing, you're going to need to collect a different minimum amount. So the minimum amount of jokes needed to get your gag tracks back in every mini game, regardless if it's the ice skating or if it's the move and shaker stomp, is going to be 25 for the first one and then 45 for the second one in a 1 star. For a 2 star it becomes 35 and 55, and then for a 3 star it's 45 then 65. But make sure that you are picking those up and getting your maximum 2 gag tracks back before you move on to the next round. The Move and Shaker game isn't too difficult, just make sure that you're staying safe and not getting hit. Staying in groups of other Toons definitely helps as well, but one of the biggest threats I found is to find a water cooler that's near one of the big cogs and just grab, throw, grab, throw, grab, throw. Once it's all completed, again, make sure you have enough jokes for all your gag tracks, move on to the next floor. The second mini game is the ice skating game. This is the new one, and in my opinion, a ton of fun. So the premise is that it's a frozen room with a bunch of thermometers around. You need to go around hitting each of the thermometers to turn up the temperature and thaw out the entire room. If you thaw out the entire room, then you will complete the minigame. However, if you don't have enough of the thermometers on, the temperature will go back down, so you have to make sure you are keeping them on at all times. And this can be tough when the cogs are around turning them off. You can also go to these filing cabinets and collect some of the snowballs and use those to hit the cogs to fend them off of the temperature gauges. Now here's the strat that I've seen for this one. You can do it one of two ways, whether you want to get each toon in their own quadrant of the map, or split it and have two toons go up and down each side. But what you do is completely ignore the cogs and focus 100% on just touching each of the temperature gauges. It's nice to grab some snowballs to have them as you're skating by to deal some damage and slow down the cogs, but don't put too much of an emphasis on it. Make sure you are focusing on simply turning on these temperature gauges. And if you do that, you can get the whole mini game done in about 45 seconds. It goes quick. Then at that point, collect a bunch of snowballs, defeat all the cogs, and collect as many jokes as you can to make sure you get your remaining gag tracks back. So keep in mind, you don't actually have to click any button to turn on the temperature gauges or throw the snowballs. You just need to skate near them and the game does it for you. Kind of makes it easy. But because of that, keep in mind that you don't actually have to run into any of these things. You can just skate by it. So one big tip I have to make sure that you're not losing momentum and you're not accidentally running into cogs is consciously remember not to skate into the temperature gauges. Just skate by them and the game will have you turn it on automatically. Skate by the cogs and you will throw it automatically, and if you don't, then you can loop around and try again. Once you get that down, this game becomes a breeze and it's basically a free floor moving on to the next one. The next floor has another cog fight which has just about, if not slightly more cogs than the first one. Again, with the 1 star being about 9 cogs, the 2 and 3 stars each having about 13. You have more gag tracks now, so theoretically this one should be a little bit easier. Again, coordinate with your team and move on. And then you have another mini game. After you complete the mini game, you will move on to the final boss. One thing I like to do is, if you have a gag up all, is after the second fight to use a gag up all in the elevator before you go to the next mini game to ensure everyone has maximum gags for the final fight, since it will come in handy. Now we come to the boiler, probably the most complex cog that you will fight in the entire field office. This boiler has a lot of health, and although I don't know the exact number, it does vary depending on which star you have, whether it be a 1 star, 2 star, 3 star field office. And he will have 3 different phases. He has a neutral phase, his attack and defense are normal, his on fire phase where he deals 50% more damage but also takes 50% more damage, and his defense phase. And if you do hit him, he retaliates and will hit you back even harder. In a 1 star, he hits any toon that hits him for an even 50, and a 2 star it's for 70, and a 3 star it's 80. So if he's in defense mode and you know you're not going to kill him, make sure that you are not attacking him. And only attack him in defense mode if you are positive that you are going to kill him. Also to know, in defense mode, this is where he brings out more cogs and he can do things like give them health, he can unlure them, give them attack and defense boosts, and if you don't hit any of the cogs for a round, he can promote them and give them higher levels. Don't leave these cogs for too long because they can be promoted all the way up to level 20. So you do have to be conscious of what cogs are in battle and which ones can attack. But because we know the order that he does every single time, we have come up with a pretty quick fire way to deal with this boss. His order always goes neutral, neutral with cogs, and then on fire, on fire, on fire, and then defense, 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 before going back on fire again. So here's what we do. For the first round, you squirt to get some damage out of them. The second round, the cogs come in, and you want to take out all the cogs while also hitting them at the same time, so this is where you use sound. Once these cogs are defeated, he doesn't summon anymore until the defensive round. For the next 3 turns, he will be on fire. So this is where we maximize our throw gags because they deal the most damage. For the next 3 turns, fully throwing using birthday cakes is going to deal so much damage that after the end of these 3 turns, he will have about 1 health bar left. Now you do have to keep a conscious mind of how much health you have. If you come in with a full 137, if you're a max toon and you have a full health bar before going into this fight, you can tank just about any hit that he hits you with. But if you don't, or if you come in weak, then you are going to have to be conscious about the fact that some people are going to be low on health. Tune-up unites are great, or even taking 1 turn to have 1 person tune-up is always okay as well. But if you can tank all those hits, you're going to be able to deal the most amount of damage. Once he goes in defense mode and cogs come in, this is where you can lure and tune up to make sure everybody is healthy, but additionally, have 1 person use a damage remote. There's a reason for this. And here's the biggest reason. When the boiler is in defense mode, for every turn you don't hit a cog in battle, he will promote them, giving them a higher level, which gives them more health and more attack. You want to prevent this. So by having one person lure, it keeps the cogs from attacking, and having one person use a damage remote on one cog, that cog damages all the other cogs that are in battle, and therefore they are taking damage and will not be promoted. We also learned that if you hit a cog with a damage remote, the cog that's hurting the other cogs won't cause them to unlure. So they will take damage from the cog with the damage remote, and they will not be unlured. The only time they will become unlured is if the lure runs out or if the boiler uses his special ability to unlure them. And basically you just need to survive the next 3 turns by passing, tune-upping, luring if they become unlured, and then by the time that he's on attack again, you can sound to wipe out all the remaining cogs, deal some damage to him, he'll be alone again, and then for the next couple turns you can squirt, and at that point it should be enough to completely take him out, at least in a 1-star. For a 2 or 3-star, you may need to use a gag up all or a gag up restock or restock throw to be able to do more damage, or maybe even go through this defense phase again, but in that case you can just lure and then again use a damage remote to stall for time. And by following these quick tips, you will be able to get through this boiler boss without a problem. That is if you can go without crashing.
No! I crashed! What do you mean?
And then once the boiler's defeated, he does a fun little animation, also taking out any other cogs that are left in the battle, and you get your reward. The reward being one of these health or damage remotes. And these remotes allow you to take control of a cog, and this cog in battle will essentially act like a Sue in Corporate Clash, where the cog will not attack you. And instead, he will either A, attack the other cogs around him, or B, do a funny dance and heal you. And these amounts are typically about 15 to 20, so the damage that it's passing on or the healing that it's doing to you isn't all that much. However, being able to take a cog out of the battle and not attack, especially like a really high level 14 one, can be the difference maker in some fights. So I would say that this is a very good reward in that sense, especially since a damage remote is so helpful in the boiler fight alone. But that's all the information I have for you guys here. I hope that you guys have been taking out many of the field offices. You know, I've been grinding myself, and I really hope that this is a really fun implementation that's going to be here to stay for a long time. I do appreciate you guys watching this video. If I left anything out, be sure to leave a comment with more information, helping each other out. And if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like as well. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, God bless, and peace.